All right, let's just play along, and I'm sorry for the inconvenience. Hopefully Zoom will get this thing figured out soon. Anyone want to share? Marie, go on with your open house story if you don't mind.
Yes, so I worked in open house with Carrie Veal and Brian was there as well. It was pretty busy. It was very informative. We had a lot of good tips and information. And a few contacts too. There's most everyone there was already represented. She had probably 5 or 6 offers by the end of the day.
Wow.
Yeah,
that doesn't tell you that she's focused on listings. I don't know what does.
Yeah, it hadn't been listed 48 hours.
Wow. Yeah, Jenny Vereen had a similar one. She was on the market. I think Saturday morning was already under this weekend. Cool. I'm glad you did that. Anyone else?
Hey, Bill, I went back under contract for my listing. We had 9 offers, so it was a lot for me and my client to go through. We did a Zoom call, and I did a screen share, and it was like going through everything. It was so confusing, but we got through it, and we did what am I trying to say? A counter offer, where if it don't appraise, they'll bring 5,000 more. To the table if you don't appraise for the amount. So we ended up going for 350, 500, and it was on the market for 339. So it's pretty good.
Wow. Great job. Great job, you guys.
Echoing, by the way, too.
Tina, one more time.
I said, that's awesome, Marquita. That's awesome, Marquita. Not echoing today.
Yeah, Marquia's got it figured out. I think the rest of us are echoing.
What'd she say?
Oh, God.
Oh.
All right. Anyone else want to share real fast? I'll move right into the checklist. Anyone? Okay. What I want to do is there's a file called checklist, as you would imagine. Can anyone think of any other way that we could possibly do this? I don't want to annoy anybody, but all right. All right, let's do it this way. All right, I'm going to share my screen with you real fast, and we're going to jump right in. Okay, so both of these documents are saved in the Google Drive. There's a folder called checklist, and then there's a buyer checklist and a seller checklist in each one of those. Okay, the idea here, what I want to communicate to you guys, is that every transaction from a system standpoint is virtually the same.
What we saying?
Okay, all the dynamics of dealing with your client and how long it's going to take, that's where the changes occur. But you should be able to take this framework and make sure that at each stage, you know personally what the next handful of tasks that need to be accomplished are. And you can share that with your client. Remember, we want to get into the habit of ending phone calls when we're in transaction with a client by saying, and here's what's going to happen. Right. That way they know that you know, and I didn't save like I wanted it to, because I'm looking at an old version, it looks like. Give me 1 second. Hang on just a second, y'all. Okay, cool. This is the right one. Okay. Now, this will let you know what's coming next, and it will let the prospect or the client know what's coming next. When people know what's coming next, there is much less stress, much less tension, and everyone is kind of operating right? Have you guys ever done like a trust walk where let's say I'm giving Donna a trust walk, and she's got like a bandana on or something, an eye covering on. And I'm walking her around, and I don't tell her anything like, hey, stop, step 2 steps to the left, When I don't do that, she feels like when I help her understand, okay, well, we're coming up to a pole, so I need you to take 2 steps to the right. She feels a lot more comfortable. She can be blind and still feel comfortable. Does that make sense? So I'm just going to run through these lists. These were mine, or these are mine. You guys can take them, rip them off, whatever you want. Remember, any changes that you want to make to these documents yourself, just go ahead and pull the document off of the Google Drive for yourself, and then you can edit it off of the Google Drive, and it can become yours. So if your business does something that I don't have on here, add it. If I put something on here that you don't really care about or you don't want to deal with, don't do it. Okay. So what we did here is we have a checklist that says action, yes or no, date, notes. Okay. The idea here, yeah, Ebony, we got no choice today. I don't know what's going on. This was
I think it's coming from somebody's phone,
between
Bill.
myself and my assistant. Okay. So what I want you guys to, everyone on the call, I think is solo. So understand that you got a couple of jobs here. Some days you're going to be wearing the real estate agent's hat, and some days I want you to understand very, very clearly that you are acting like a real estate agent's assistant. Okay. Can y'all hear it all, or is this just okay?
For me,
No, it's much better now.
for me, the echo's gone.
Okay, good. Okay, thanks for hanging in there with us, everybody. So here's the deal with these sheets. Okay, the first thing we want to do is keep it super simple. Okay, everything that you see that is in regular font, it's a task that I was doing. Everything that was bold is a task that my assistant was doing. Okay, good.
I'm sorry, Bill, are you still sharing your screen with us?
I thought I was. Let me go back. Sorry. All right, can you see it now?
I got it now.
Man, we've had a tough morning. All right, we're here though. We're here. Okay, so if it is in regular font, it's something that I was doing. If it's in bold, it's something that I was doing or I was doing until my assistant was doing it. Okay. And every day she would send me a list of the handful of tasks, like the next 3 or 4 tasks that needed to get done for each client. So there were times when we had 7 or 8 of these things all at the same time. It's like, Johnson, do these 3 things. Stevens, do these 3 things. Monroe, do these 3 things, right? And you had to have a system in order to keep it straight. That way you knew, okay, well, I ordered the termite litter for this guy, but I haven't sent over the final signatures for this guy, right? So here's just a list. You guys want to do the buyer one first or the seller one?
Well, I wouldn't mind doing the seller one first as a potential. I actually may have a listing shortly.
All right, let's do the seller one first, since we talked about seller listings being the better use of our time. Okay. First thing we're going to do is have an intake sheet. Okay. We also have intake sheets inside the Google Drive as well. An intake sheet is essentially the list of pre-qualification questions. Okay. And it also includes things like their name, their email, their cell phone number, and then obviously their motivation, the type of home they have, that kind of thing. Okay. So that's kind of the initial conversation. When I'm courting them, there's going to be a moment where it turns from a courtship to, whoa, this is starting to sound like a pre-appointment. Let me pull out my intake sheet, right? At that point, I give them ask them all the questions that I need, and we move on, okay? Next thing, I'm going to send them a thank you video intro. We talked a little bit about this a week or so ago. It could just be something like a quick little 30-second, 45-second video on what it's like to work with me and a thank you for their time. Okay, I would make that personalized. So like, meaning add their name. Okay, it could be informal. You know, if you happen to be out in the field and you got trees and a street behind you or something like that, just send it to them nice and quick and text it to them. That makes them feel special, and no other agents are doing that. Okay, remember, everything we're doing is designed to separate ourselves from the next person that isn't treating this like a business. All right. So the next thing I'm going to do is update my client database, meaning I have a new opportunity. I want to get it into the database, okay, and put in all the information that I know about them. Then I'm going to go on the listing appointment. Meanwhile, I'm checking yes, right? Really, it shouldn't even say yes or no. It should just say yes, right? The date that I did it and any notes that either I need to communicate to my assistant or vice versa, okay? Then after the listing appointment, I'm going back to my client database because I most likely know something new now. Maybe I know the daughter's name, or I know where the kid goes to school, or I know, more details about why they're moving to where they're moving, right? So at the end of that appointment, I'm also going to search or research some information about the competition, right? So I might send them some, basically executing on any promises that I made during the listing presentation. Okay. Now I did this because I had a data loss at one point long ago, and I'm probably overly paranoid about this. But everything that I put on the Loop or on DocuSign now, I had a separate Google Drive file for them, which included this checklist. So at any time, I could just quickly go to Google Drive, and we had duplicate files everywhere. Okay. And every month or so, I dropped everything from Google Drive onto an external hard drive. And I bought an external hard drive for my assistant, shipped it to the Philippines, and then she did that every week. So we had, the data was in 4 different places. It wasn't going anywhere. Okay. We create an opportunity, right? We shared the disclosure statements, seller's property disclosure, community association disclosure, lead-based paint disclosure if applicable. Send them to be completed. Okay. Now I'm uploading the seller checklist into the, I'm creating this document now. It looks like I might have a chance to get paid. So I want to track the things I'm doing. Okay. We had a seller info sheet that was basically a secondary document to this. So we had a separate tab that was essentially like, name, address, all the emails, all the contact informations, like any pertinent information I needed to know at that moment at a quick glance about that file, like how to reach the person, did I have to call like the tenant to get access, or did I, eventually we put the CVS code on there. We'd put the lockbox that I added on there, like, so I knew what the lockbox number was, right? I'd put the date that it was listed, the date that the home was going to expire, all the pertinent information about that file. Okay. I called that a seller info sheet. I'd email Kern for the legal description. You don't necessarily have to do that, but rather than looking it up myself, I just shot off a quick email and said, send me the legal description for 123 Hill Street. The last name is Jones and it's in DeKalb County. Okay. And then very quickly, Kern could send me back the what's called the legal description. That's the way the county references that property. It's the thing that says like district this, land lot that, plat page book number that, right? That way I could put it properly into the listing agreement, which I then sent and got signed. This, I thought I edited it last night, but add entry to CTE, that's just a secondary program that I was using a long time ago. I'll take that out. Upload Cole list to Google Drive. So basically my assistant would go into Cole and say, oh, Bill's about to list 123 Hill Street. He's probably going to want to make some calls to the neighbor. So she'd go and create that list and upload it in, right? So as soon as you know that a listing is coming, Markia, for example, you got 9 or 8 other people that want a home like you just put under contract. So what if you were able to parlay that into another home nearby, right? You call the neighbors and say, hey, I want you to know that we had 6 offers the first time and 9 offers the second time. So I'm aware of at least 14 people that want a home like yours, but don't have it yet. So I don't know if you know, but today may be the best day you've ever had to sell your home. Want to sell it? You see what I'm saying? Have you thought about selling? So review disclosures with seller. Look, I might be in the very small minority of people that would say this. I think that it is your job to make sure the seller's disclosure reads the way you want it to read. Okay. And yes, it is theirs to fill out. But if they don't put that the landscape lighting is included, or the basketball goal is included, or the mounted microwave is included, or the switch plate covers are included. It just doesn't look organized. Okay, I want that file to be flawless, because if the disclosure statement is sloppy, then the buyer says, I wonder if the agent is sloppy. And I wonder if the seller did sloppy repairs. You see what I'm saying? Just make it tight. So if they send you the disclosure statement and it's a little sloppy, tell them how to fix it and tell them to sign it again. Does that make sense? That makes sense? I heard this didn't happen to me, but I heard this story a few years ago. This is like a 10,000, 12,000 square foot house. And the disclosure was sloppy. Okay. And the seller didn't check that they were going to include all of the light bulbs and all the switch plate covers and all that kind of stuff. Right. And the negotiations and the contract kind of went downhill. They ended up closing, but everyone was mad at each other. The seller took out every single light bulb and every single switch plate cover when they closed the home. It was like $1,000 worth of freaking light bulbs in a house like that. And he did it because he could. And he was just trying to be a jerk. You see what I'm saying? Just make it right. Okay. And if the seller gives a lousy explanation about how something was fixed, then help them make it sound better, right? House flooded, insurance took care of everything. All vendors were hired professionally, and there have been no issues since. Not house flooded, it's all good now. Like, oh my gosh, be a little bit more thorough, please. You see what I'm saying? So if there's something on that disclosure that you don't believe is thorough enough, ask them to make it more thorough. Okay, or if it doesn't read right, in your opinion, tell them to rewrite it. Okay, same thing with the community association disclosure. If they bought the home 7 years ago and there wasn't an initiation fee and now there is, they may not even know about it, right? So whatever they put on there, it's your job, in my opinion, to call the HOA and double check everything. Okay, and if you find out something that they didn't put, tell them to fix it and re-sign it. Does it make sense? It's a pain to deal with disclosures that are slightly inaccurate. Okay. All right. Add all signed documents.
I have a question. Would you go so far as to like ask the State Farm guy to run a loss history report to see if there were any insurance claims, anything major that they weren't disclosing?
No, I've never done that. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with it. I've just never done that.
Okay.
The disclosure statement is, interestingly enough, is not necessarily designed to inform the buyer. It's designed to protect the seller, right? So this is the seller's opportunity to disclose whatever they feel the need to disclose, so that if in the event later on there's an issue, then they could say, hey, I told you about this, right? You had the opportunity to check it. See what I'm saying? Okay, number 20 or line 20, add all signed docs to Google Drive. So every time I had something executed within the loop or within DocuSign, I've downloaded and threw it into a secondary file too. Now it's time to schedule the photographer. Now it's time to edit the pictures. Now it's time to complete the dual entry form and send to Luth. So I was going in the home with what's called the dual entry form, where I was like, okay, does it have sidewalks? Does it have attic stairs? You know, where is the water heater gas? Where's the half baths? You know, does the neighborhood have or does the roof have ridge vents? It's like all the things you forget to look at, and you're like, damn, does it have ridge vents? Let me see if I can tell from the pictures, you know? And you don't really want to call the seller and say, hey, do you have ridge vents? Because they'll think you don't know what ridge vents are, right? So you want to make sure that you understand all the things that are going to be on the listing paperwork, so that when you're at the house, you can make note of that stuff. Does that make sense? There's a document called the dual entry form that you can take with you to the listings when you're previewing or when you're going. So you're filling out a lot of that stuff. once I had it filled out, I just scanned it into Luth. Luth's my assistant, and she was the one that put it in. Okay, so we input the price or input into FMLS with pictures and docs.
I'm sorry, Bill, just a quick question. So that's that. So when is that dual entry form handled? So that dual entry form is not handled at the listing appointment?
Generally it would be. So when you are at the home and you're walking through the home, that's what I would be taking my notes on.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so you're putting it into FMLS and Georgia MLS. You update the email the FMLS data page to the seller, right? So once it's in, you say, hey, it's live. Here's the data page. Do you have any feedback? Oh yeah, I want you to mention the fact that it has this sprinkler system. You forgot to mention that. Okay, fine. Right. Update supraekey.com. That's where you can you tie the listing to the lockbox that you use. So in the future, when you guys have multiple listings at one time, you can keep straight who's showing what property and what feedback they have for that unique property. Okay. Update KWLS, which is the Keller Williams listing system. Create flyer, create virtual tour. Okay.
Bill, can I stop you? How do you update KWLS? Where do you go for that?
That is within, they're completely revamping KWLS right now. That is, I'm trying to remember exactly. It's been so long since I've done it. Let me come back to that, okay?
Okay.
Send me a message later and I'll send out some instructions to everybody, okay? Where is that document that I just had? Hang on. Did I just drop it? Okay, here we go. Update to YouTube, blog, and social media, or upload to YouTube, blog, and social media. Do I do a blog post about it? Do I send out a social media alert? Right? I knocked 50 doors around the listing. I'd say, 15 doors that way, 15 doors that way, and 30 doors across the street. Say, hey, I'm Bill. That's my sign. Got the home on the market. Have any questions? Right? What we know is that as soon as one home goes on the market, there is generally at least two people that say, well, damn, I should probably sell if I can get $425 for it. Right? Or you have people that want to say, ooh, what did they do to their kitchen? Oh, why is their home so valuable? Oh, what did they do to their backyard? Right? It's just natural for them to want to have questions, and you want to be the person that they go to when they have questions. Okay, so then I'd make the cold calls for the listing. I would edit the feedback system that we had for showings. Okay, could be anything you want. Weekly calls to seller to update. I was calling all the sellers that I had Friday afternoon. If I had a listing and you didn't hear from me Friday afternoon, call the cops. Everyone knew that's what I was doing, and everyone knew to expect it. Make sense? Okay. Receive offer and review with seller, right? Now, I've already coached the seller a little bit on what to expect, but once the offer comes in, we are, I send it to them for their review, and then we schedule an opportunity to call, and I'm going through the high points of the offer and make sure that they're comfortable. Okay, then we go to binding agreement. Now, because we have a binding agreement, we know when the due diligence is going to end. We know what the buyer's name is, the buyer's agent's name is, the broker code, the date of closing, the date of the financing contingency. We know all the details basically now. So we go and we upload or update the seller info sheet. We can make sure we have an updated file in DocuSign and in Google Drive. Okay, we share the paperwork. So the paperwork, here are the people that need the paperwork. All the agents, your personal client, and the closing attorney. Okay. So for example, I told you I have a buyer under contract right now. It was particularly important that, because it happens to be an estate sale, that the seller wanted to close at a particular law firm. So we agreed to close there, and we're using obviously our own lender. So I was in charge basically of sending the file to the buyer's lender, And then I said to the assistant of the listing agent, I said, you guys, you'll share it with our attorney contact, right? And they say yes. So I didn't have to deal with that. But I need to make sure that everyone's got the paperwork. Okay. Then I created a little deadline or a little email with all the deadlines and sent it to the other party to confirm that I counted properly. And I emailed a calendar of the dates to the seller so they knew when all of their deadlines were. I changed the status in Georgia MLS and FMLS. I sent a little video congratulating everybody. Okay, we updated loose calendar with deadlines. So all the deadlines went on my assistant's calendar. So every day when she logged into the office, she could look at the, because we had a due diligence period ending this day, a financing contingency on a different property ending this way. We're listing a home that day. I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on, right? So she had everything on her calendar, and every morning we'd huddle up and say, hey, here are the deadlines that we need to be aware of. Here's the next thing we need to do on all these next files. What are you going to do and what am I going to do, right? I'm going to call seller to summarize the next steps, which are usually regarding like, okay, their inspection is this day, and don't mess with the radon test, and blah, 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 right? Don't stick around during the inspection, please get lost. Okay. Then the home would be under contract. So I'd call all the same people I called the first time, hopefully a few days earlier, and said, hey, you remember how I called you and told you that I had this new listing? Well, it's already under contract. Aren't I wonderful? Have you changed your mind? Would you still like to sell now? Right? Commission agreement. So it is generally the seller's agent or the listing agent's job to fill out the commission agreement. That's also called the instructions to closing attorney. The reason there is because the buyer doesn't actually know, they only know what their commission is, or the buyer's agent, I should say. They don't know necessarily what the seller's agreed to pay the listing agent. So the listing agent fills that out. Okay. Then we negotiate any repairs. Then we update Google Drive and DocuSign, because now there's another part of the contract, right? The amendment to address concerns. There's a document called the seller. Most attorneys have this, where at the beginning of when they get the files, they send the seller what they call a seller info sheet, and the buyer what they call a buyer info sheet. The seller info sheet would be like, what's the best way to reach you at your future address, and what's your current mortgage information, and these kind of questions, so that they can get the file ready for closing. And the same thing for the buyer, right? How would you like to take title? Do you want to take it with right of survivorship or joint tenants in common? All, that kind of thing, right? Then we schedule the closing. Generally, the first person to schedule the closing gets their desired time, right? So I'd call my agent or my client, I'd say, hey, let's close at 11 o'clock on this day. And because I was generally first, we closed when I wanted to close rather than when they wanted to close, because I had a bunch of stuff I was doing. I wanted to do calls in the morning. I didn't want to stay at the attorney's office until 6 o'clock at night. I didn't want to close at the end of the day on Friday. I didn't want to close at the beginning of the day on Monday, right? I wanted to decide, because the more control I can have over my calendar, the more successful I'll be. If I allow everyone else to control my calendar, I won't get a damn thing done. Does that make sense? Okay. Lender introduction. Do I know who the lender is? Okay. If I don't know the lender personally, I'm going to call them and introduce myself. Hey, I'm Bill. I'm with Keller Williams in Roswell. Your borrower is buying my listing, and I figured we should know who each other are. If you need anything whatsoever, here I am. Here's how to reach me. Any questions? By the way, I've already taught, I should actually have this as another step, but I would never, ever, under any circumstance, I might get yelled at for this, but I'm willing to take that chance. I would never allow my seller to sign a contract without having first talked to that buyer's lender. I want to hear the woman's voice or the man's voice.
Yeah, Bill?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the lender introduction is done after the close is scheduled?
Well, I'm just saying the closing, these are like the immediate, like all this is basically happening.
Oh, at like same time?
Yeah, within like a couple of hours probably.
Because
right?
I would want to know the lender pretty like maybe middle on in the process or a little bit earlier.
Remember, we're on the seller side on this.
Okay.
Right. So most likely we're not going to know the lender. So I'm going to have a conversation prior to having the seller sign the contract so that I can get comfortable with the lender and say, hey, I'm just curious, how far in this process have you gotten? Did the guy tell you he makes 80 grand, or have you confirmed that?
I wouldn't want my sellers signing anything before I knew that. Perfect. Okay, I
Right.
agree.
So I'm checking back in with them now and saying, hey, congratulations. Thanks for working hard so far. Here's how to reach me. Here's how to reach you. By the way, I just scheduled the closing for 2 o'clock on Thursday, the 29th. Is that cool with you? Same thing with the attorney. If I don't know the attorney, I'm going to call the attorney and say, hey, I'm Bill. I'm on the other side. Here's how to reach me. I'm going to be a great partner here. Just don't screw up. All right. So then I'm watching the financing contingency. I'm watching the appraisal contingency. I'm checking in with the STIPs and notes. So for example, am I supposed to get receipts to the buyer for something? Or am I supposed to send the community association disclosure? Like sometimes there's like some little stuff that has been agreed upon that you want to make sure is not overlooked, right? Then I facilitate the completion of all the repairs. I get the clear to close, meaning I'm continuing to stay in touch with the lender and the buyer's agent. I go out and get my closing gift. I attend the closing. I take a photo at the closing. Okay. I take care of all the commission paperwork and final paperwork to keep compliant with the office. Okay. I update the Google contact file. Guess what? They don't live at that address anymore. So now I need to change their address, right? Or I need to take them from a prospect to a client, right? Or change any type of tags because they may not be a seller next, they may be a buyer next, right? So update the opportunity, post the picture to social media, send a little video congratulating them. I'll go and call those people all again and say, hey, by the way, that home that I called you on 3 weeks ago and I told you it was pending, and 3 weeks and 2 days earlier, I called you and told you it was available. Well, it closed, and it's the highest sale we've ever had in the neighborhood. Do you have any questions? Right? I'd write a handwritten note to the seller. I'd send out a little survey to the seller. I'd write a handwritten note to the co-op agent. Okay. Don't forget, guys, you are cooperating with them, yet you are on opposite sides of the table. If you are an ass, it's going to come back and haunt you. Okay. I have dozens of agents across the city where all I'd probably have to do is call them and say, hey, I know you're multiple offers. I want to win. What's it going to take? Like, Bill, I love that transaction we did 4 years ago together. Hey, just give me this and I'll see it closing. You see what I'm saying? Like, make your job easy for yourself by being nice and by doing the work and by being responsive and by keeping your cool. Okay. I used to get, I had a reason to get pissed off 15 times a day at the height of being in real estate. But if I let that get to me and I take it out on my partners, I'll never have another deal. Okay. Collect and save the written testimonial. Collect and save the video testimonial. Share it, right? Then I move the file to the closed file section so that I'm just sharing how I kept everything organized after the fact. I'd even write a testimonial for the co-op agent because I was starting to do some recruiting at that time. Then I'd call and check in with the agent, see how their business was doing, add them to the client, schedule a coffee with them, and then I'd call the seller 1 week later just to check to make sure everything is okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a buyer one also. It follows the same format. If it's in regular font, it's the task that I did. If it's in bold, it's a task that theoretically it should be the assistant's job. And what I mean by that, guys, I know that a lot of us are not in that space right now, but understand that when you're realtor, okay, you're probably worth $200 to $300 an hour. The second you stop being realtor and you go be realtor's assistant, you're probably worth around $15 an hour. So we want to make sure that we are focused as much as possible in the activities that a real estate agent does to make the needle move. Okay, lead generation, lead follow-up, negotiations, going on appointments, and script practice and role play. Everything else should be done by somebody else eventually. Make sense? Okay, let's just spend another 2 minutes real fast on career visioning. Give me a couple highlights from career visioning. What did you guys learn?
I learned that he said behavior tends to be repeated.
Yes.
I think that's true.
Yes.
And I like when he said, when he was talking about with the vendors, that sometimes you have to apply pressure. It's not like it's a transaction where, it's not a transaction. So if you're going to get what it is that you want, sometimes you have to apply pressure.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it like I mean, I really liked the guy that I was using for home inspection. So, and I probably could have applied more pressure to him, but there were years when I gave him 30 inspections or more. And I don't think I've ever got a referral from him. So what should I do? Should I go support somebody else's business a little bit too? Share the wealth? Am I to assume that he didn't have a single real estate referral all year long, or am I to assume I didn't get it? Right? Did he choose somebody else? I need to know that, because if he choose somebody else, I might choose somebody else. Does that make sense? Great. Who else?
Something that resonated with me was that the rainmaker should not be the hardest working person on the team. They should be the hardest thinking person on the team, and they should have people who are working hard because they are chasing their own big opportunities. And that your job is to be the hardest thinking person as the leader. And if you are not looking forward, you're looking right where you are, and that stalls your growth.
Yeah, and you're always on stage because the people in your organization ideally are talented, and when they watch you not knowing what the hell you're doing, they're like, wait a second, am I in the right building?
Right.
There was just so much great content about talent, right? Talent solves problems. I do, like, I'm not calling anyone in particular out on this, but one of my pet peeves is being asked things that easily can be looked up. Right? Easily. Like, talent solves problems. Don't bring the problem to me, just look it up. You see what I'm saying? So I get it. I'm not trying to say I'm not interested in those calls. Please don't hear that the wrong way. But understand that we do have something called the internet, Google. Just try that first. Does that make sense? Also, the productivity coaching, productivity coach, or this program, as we can tell, is growing, right? We're at 46 agents right now. We are basically, when I started, I was told you're going to start feeling the pressure to around 45 agents. And that's exactly what's happened. Okay. Meaning, I'm looking for ways, how do we make this program better? How do we grow it more? How do we continue to provide opportunities? There's going to be a point, which we're pretty much at, where, like, I'm near maxed out, right? Yet I don't want to shrink the program. So that means I'm on the hunt for talent, right? If I've got a choice to hire somebody that participates, or somebody who doesn't participate, or somebody who shows themselves to be resourceful or doesn't show themselves to be resourceful, which one do you think I'm going to pick? You see what I'm saying? So we're all on, we're all being evaluated at all times. Does that make sense? All right, one or two more, and then we'll end the morning. Anyone else have? He did share quite a bit about weekly accountability. Did y'all catch that? Wink, wink. All right, who else?
Okay, Bill, I got a question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yesterday I got 2 appointments, but I think I got 2 levels of questions. The first one is I got an appointment with a customer yesterday, but it was in a subdivision. And when I was with the subdivision guy, that the seller, I don't know the builder, and I got a paper, but they said the commission should be 2% if the buyer buys the house. But I didn't get it. I said, why you say 2%? They say they're gonna do all the job. That means they're gonna help the buyer, and they're gonna go to the closing, wherever I can't be there, but they're gonna pay my broker 2%. And my question is to know why they need to pay 2% because they say they're gonna do the job. Tell me, what is the possibility to get all the 3% back?
Well, the question is it where are they marketing this? Is it listed in FMLS and is it listed at 3% or 2%? And there is no requirement that they pay 3%. Yet if they're marketing 3%, then they should be paying 3%. And by them telling you, oh, I'm going to do most of the work, you don't have to even bother showing up. I don't care if you're not going to pay me at all, but I'm committing to working with this dude, and you are not going to take advantage of this dude on all over my site. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So with that in mind, we're not going to let somebody else say, oh, don't worry about it, I got that taken care of. No. You work for the seller. So you probably have that taken care of. I get you. But I work for the buyer. Don't mess around with my buyer. That's my buyer.
Yeah, but it's a new construction. That means
there's still a lot of ways that a buyer can get screwed over. So Mike, send me the address, and I want to look it up in FMLS to see how they're advertising that commission. Okay.
It's LGI.
AGI.
You know, yeah, LGI subdivision Athens.
Just
right now,
send me the address or the name, and I'll look it up here in just a bit. Okay, John, I'll call you in a bit. I saw your message. Okay. All right, y'all. We were way past time today, but I hope this was helpful. And do not forget, please, that we have Mega Agent Day on the 22nd from 9:30 to 12:30. That is free. That is in the newsletter. You can register for that. And then Bold starts, or Ignite starts in like 20 minutes, and Bold starts tomorrow. Okay. Please update your numbers. Don't make me beg. Come on, weekly accountability. It takes 2 seconds per week. 2 seconds, y'all.
Yeah, Bill. Excuse me, last time I didn't follow Bold because I don't have the link. I was trying to hit the link, but it doesn't work. That's why I didn't show up. I don't know if I can have the link. Yeah.
The link is in the email that I've sent out to everyone, and the link for posting your numbers is right there. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right, you guys, have a wonderful day.
You too.
Thanks, Bill. So long, everyone.
Thank you.